I remember the moment I first saw it. Not the file, not the book, but the emptiness. 57 pages. And this feeling like the rest wasn't just hidden. It was removed from reality. Picture this. 1966, an engineer, not crazy, not a conspiracy theorist, a man with access to data most people can't even imagine. He writes a book, and this book isn't about politics, not about war. It's about the end of the world, but not the kind we're used to. No asteroid, no nuclear war, no virus, something worse, something that's already happened before. And then something strange happens. The book gets classified, not published, not debunked, not ridiculed, just taken by the CIA. Why? What could possibly be so dangerous that no one was allowed to read it? I started digging. At first, everything seemed reasonable. The author, John Thomas, engineer, researcher, he wrote about pole shifts. Pole shift. Sounds like just another scientific theory, right? Magnetic poles move. That's normal. It's happened before. Nothing scary. That's what I thought. The first release pages even feel calming. It reads like standard geophysics. Magnetic field changes, geological cycles, natural processes. But then, something stops making sense. He's not talking about slow changes. He's talking about sudden ones. Events that don't take thousands of years, but hours. And that's where I paused. Hours? How does an entire planet change in hours? That's impossible, right? Then I found one detail. He described the oceans rising, not waves, walls of water, miles high, water ripping across continents. And you know what's the most unsettling part? He writes it so calmly. No panic, just like an engineer documenting a process, like it's happened before. That's when things started breaking apart for me. Because if this is true, why don't we know about it? So I kept going. And I found references to mass extinctions. You've heard of them. Dinosaurs, ice ages, entire species disappearing. We're told it took millions of years. Slowly. But what if it didn't? What if it happened instantly? What if those periods are just the aftermath of something we refuse to admit? And that's where the theory comes in. The real one, the one that might explain why the book was classified. That Earth isn't stable. That its crust can shift, violently, suddenly, like the peel of an orange sliding over the fruit beneath. Just imagine that for a second. Continents moving, not inches, thousands of miles. Cities swallowed by oceans. Oceans dumped onto land. All in a single day. Sounds like science fiction. I thought so too, until I found something else. Ancient maps. The Piri Reis map. It shows Antarctica without ice. How? Officially, Antarctica wasn't even discovered until centuries later, and it's always been covered in ice. But on that map, it's not. Why? That's when I felt it. Something off. Like we forgot something. Like humanity has already lived through this and erased it from memory. Or someone helped erase it. So I went back to those 57 pages, and I noticed something else. Parts of the text feel cut. Sentences just stop. Paragraphs feel ripped out. The CIA literally says, sanitize. Sanitize from what? Errors? Or truth? And that's when another thought hit me. Maybe this isn't just about catastrophes. Maybe it's about who we are. Because the book has another title. The True Story of Adam and Eve. And if that's not symbolic, then what is it? Who was here before us? And what happened to them? I felt a chill. Because if this book describes cycles, then it means one thing. We're not the first. And maybe not the last. And the worst question that entered my mind was this. What if the next cycle has already begun? I tried to ignore that thought. Seriously. I told myself I was overthinking it, filling in gaps with fear. Because that's what we do, right? We see missing pieces, and our brain panics. But then I kept reading. And the deeper I went, the worse it got. Because John Thomas doesn't just describe catastrophe. He describes a pattern, a cycle. And according to him, it happens over and over again. Not randomly, not once in a billion years, but regularly, like a reset button. And that's when something clicked in my head. Because if this is a cycle, then there should be evidence. Not theories, not guesses, evidence. And that's exactly what I started finding. Frozen animals, not just fossils. Perfectly preserved bodies. Mammoths found in ice, with food still in their stomachs. Undigested, as if they were eating. And suddenly, everything stopped, instantly frozen. Now think about that. How does something freeze that fast? Not gradually, not over days. In a moment. That's not a normal climate change. That's something violent, something sudden, something global. And then I found something even stranger. Marine fossils, on mountains, not near the ocean, not in valleys. At the top, shells, sea creatures, thousands of feet above sea level. How do they get there? Slow uplift? That's the official explanation. Takes millions of years. But here's the problem. Some of these fossils are intact, delicate, unbroken. Would they really survive millions of years of geological pressure? Or were they placed there by water? Fast, violent, overwhelming, like a flood, a real one. And suddenly, ancient stories didn't feel so mythical anymore. Flood myths exist everywhere. Different cultures, different continents. Same story. A great flood, a reset, a handful of survivors. Why would civilizations that never met describe the same event? Coincidence or memory? And that's when the theory starts getting uncomfortable. Because if humanity has been reset before, then what about everything we've built? Everything we believe? Everything we think is permanent? Gone. In hours. Cities. Technology. History. Erased and replaced with stories. Distorted over time. Turned into myths. But here's where it gets even darker. Thomas suggests that before each reset, there are signs, warnings, subtle at first, then impossible to ignore. Shifts in climate, strange weather patterns, magnetic anomalies. And I know what you're thinking. We have that now. Yeah, that's exactly what I thought too. And for a second, I actually laughed. Because come on, people have been predicting the end of the world forever. Remember that? Nothing happened. So maybe this is just another version of that. Another fear cycle. Another story. And honestly, that felt good. It felt like relief. Like I could just close the file and move on. Forget the whole thing. But then I noticed something I couldn't explain. The sun, not metaphorically, literally. There are records, observations, reports that suggest the sun doesn't behave as consistently as we think. Solar flares. Massive bursts of energy, capable of disrupting Earth's magnetic field, knocking out satellites, power grids, communication. We've seen smaller versions of it. The Carrington event in 1859. Telegraph systems failed. Sparks flying. Operators getting shocked. And that was a small one. Now imagine something bigger. Much bigger. Something strong enough to destabilize Earth's magnetic field. And if that happens, what protects us? What keeps everything in place? What stops the crust from shifting? What keeps the oceans where they are? And suddenly, this doesn't feel like a crazy theory anymore. It feels like a chain reaction. One event triggering another and another until the entire system collapses. Fast. And here's the part that really stuck with me. Thomas implies that advanced civilizations may have existed before us. Not primitive, advanced. And they knew. They saw the cycle. They tried to prepare, maybe even escape it. And yet, they're gone. Completely. No clear trace. No undeniable proof. Just fragments. Maps that shouldn't exist. Structures we can't fully explain. Stories that sound too familiar. And then it hit me. What if the real reason this book was classified isn't just fear? What if it's control? Because think about it. If people knew, truly knew, that everything could end in a single day, what would happen? Would society function the same? Would people follow rules? Would governments hold power? Or would everything fall apart before the event even happens? And maybe that's the real danger, not the catastrophe itself, but the knowledge of it. And that leads to a question I couldn't shake. Are we being protected or controlled? And if this cycle is real, if the signs are already here, then there's one thing that matters more than anything else. Timing. When? Not if. When. And that's where the story takes a turn I wasn't ready for. Because hidden in those missing pages, there might have been an answer, and someone didn't want us to see it. I kept thinking about those missing pages. Not the ones we have. The ones we don't. Because 57 pages out of 284? That's not a coincidence. That's a decision. Someone looked at that manuscript and chose what we're allowed to see, and more importantly, what we're not. So I started asking the only question that matters. What's in the rest? Not guesses, not theories. What's so dangerous it had to be removed? At first, I assumed the worst. Maybe it was just speculation, unverified ideas, something that could cause panic. That would make sense. Governments hide things all the time to avoid chaos, right? But then I noticed something strange. The released pages don't feel harmless. They already describe global destruction, pole shifts, mass extinctions, entire civilizations wiped out. If the goal was to prevent fear, why release any of it? Why not bear the whole thing? Unless the real danger isn't a disaster. It's something deeper, something more personal. And that's when I went back to the title. The true story of Adam and Eve. I couldn't shake it. Because what if that's not symbolic? What if it's literal? Not the religious version. Not the one we're taught. Something older. Something erased. Thomas hints at it. Not directly. But enough to make you question everything. He suggests that after each catastrophe, there are survivors. A small number. Scattered. Disoriented. Starting over. Again and again. And over time, they become us. Humanity. But here's the unsettling part. If that's true, then Adam and Eve isn't a single story. It's a role, repeated, every cycle. The first man, the first woman, the beginning after the end. And suddenly, history doesn't feel linear anymore. It feels like a loop, a reset, over and over and over again. Now here's where skepticism kicks in. Because we have science, we have carbon dating, geology, evolution, data that shows continuous timeline, no resets, no sudden global wipes every few thousand years. And that's fair. That's important. We should question this. We should doubt it. Because without skepticism, we believe anything. But here's the problem. Even mainstream science admits there are gaps, missing links, unexplained events, rapid climate shifts, extinctions that happen too fast, too suddenly. And sometimes the explanations feel stretched, like we're trying to fit something chaotic into a neat, controlled story. So which is it? A stable world with occasional disruptions? Or a fragile system waiting for the next collapse? And then I found something that made this even harder to dismiss. Declassified documents. Not just this book. Others. References to pole shifts, magnetic anomalies, government interest, monitoring systems. Why monitor something that isn't a threat? Why track changes in Earth's magnetic field so closely? Unless they know something we don't. And for a moment, just a moment, I try to flip it. What if this is all wrong? What if Thomas misinterpreted data? What if this is just a compelling story, nothing more? That would be comforting. Simple. Safe. But then I remembered something. The CIA didn't laugh at it. They didn't label it fiction. They didn't ignore it. They classified it. For decades. And even when they released it, they edited it. Carefully. Deliberately. And that's not how you treat nonsense. That's how you treat something. With consequences. So now I'm left with this. Two possibilities. Either this is one of the most elaborate misunderstandings in history, or it's a warning. One we were never supposed to fully hear. And if it is a warning, then we're already late. Because if cycles are real, they don't announce themselves. They build, quietly, subtly, until one day, everything changes, and no one has time to react. So now I look at the world a little differently. Strange weather doesn't feel random anymore. Magnetic shifts don't feel distant. Even history feels uncertain, like we're missing chapters. Important ones. And maybe that's intentional, because if you were in control, if you knew something like this was coming, would you tell everyone? Or would you keep it quiet to keep the system running for as long as possible? I don't know the answer. And that's the part that bothers me the most, because this isn't just about the past. It's about now, about us, about whether we're living at the end of the cycle or safely in the middle of one. And maybe we'll never know until it happens. So let me ask you something. If you found out the world could reset in a single day, would you want to know the exact date? Or would you rather live your life not knowing? Tell me in the comments. And if you want more stories that make you question reality itself, hit subscribe, because this might just be the beginning